Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and you might have seen our multiple reports on the Wuhan lab, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and how it got a $3.7 million grant from the US government to study bats, and not just any bats. Bats with coronavirus that were 96% similar to the novel coronavirus strain we see in the so-called pandemic worldwide. And we've got some recent news on this that might just shock you, or maybe it'll be exactly what you thought all along. As this article out of the Washington Times says, which I mentioned a couple days ago on my show, Anthony Fauci should explain $3.7 million to the Wuhan laboratory. Now, why should he explain? What does he have to do with this? Well, there's a new report that's coming out that is absolutely rocking this news cycle. And by the way, before I go any further into this, make sure to hit the like button on this video, check those links below, and help keep Wham alive. We need you guys now more than ever. They're taking down videos for daring to talk about this. Anyway, going into this article, as it says, Dr. Fauci backed controversial Wuhan lab with millions of US dollars for risky coronavirus research. And as this article says, Dr. Anthony Fauci is an advisor to President Donald Trump and something of an American folk hero for his steady, calm leadership during the pandemic crisis. At least one poll shows that Americans trust Fauci more than Trump on the coronavirus pandemic, and few scientists are portrayed on TV by Brad Pitt. But just last year, the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the organization led by Dr. Fauci, get this, funded scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and other institutions for work on gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses. And as the article continues, it says, in 2019, with the backing of NIAID, the National Institute of Health committed $3.7 million over 6 years for research that included some gain-of-function work. The program followed another $3.7 million five-year project for collecting and studying bat coronaviruses, which ended in 2019, bringing the total to $7.4 million. Many scientists have criticized gain-of-function research, which involves manipulating viruses in the lab to explore their potential for infecting humans because it creates a risk of starting a pandemic from accidental releases. I mean, you guys can't make this stuff up. As it continues, SARS-CoV-2, the virus now causing a global pandemic, is believed to have originated in bats. U.S. intelligence, after originally asserting that the coronavirus had occurred naturally, conceded last month that the pandemic may have originated in a leak from a Wuhan lab. At this point, most scientists say it's possible, but not likely, that the pandemic virus was engineered or manipulated. Dr. Fauci did not respond to Newsweek's request for comment. NIH responded with a statement that said in part, most emerging human viruses come from wildlife, and these represent a significant threat to public health and biosecurity in the U.S. and globally, and demonstrated by SARS epidemic of 2002-03. And the current COVID-19 pandemic, scientific research indicates that there is no evidence that suggests a virus was created in a laboratory. Well, we know that that is absolutely false because there was already evidence of some of the first strains of novel coronavirus in a Dutch lab in 2015, and then in a Winnipeg, Canada lab by the University of Manitoba at their Disease Research Center in 2015 as well. One sample went missing. We know that we have doctors and whistleblowers and people who worked at the lab coming out and saying that they were going out of their way to work on or to manipulate in the most insane ways the coronavirus to make it something that humans could pick up. Because it isn't an easy to engineer thing to do to get viruses to be easily able to be caught by human beings that are not usually caught by human beings, and also with different temperatures in different places. I mean, many of the top experts are saying this is by far obviously a bioweapon. Obviously a bioweapon, not just maybe, but obviously. It has every single hallmark of a bioweapon. And again, it's not to say that all the numbers are accurate, because they certainly aren't. They are being manipulated left and right, and people are calling car crashes heart attacks and cancer, coronavirus. Well, if you catch any kind of cold or flu when you have terminal cancer, it can very likely kill you. It could very likely kill an elderly person to get any kind of thing. And it's not to underplay, the risks of the coronavirus, which is bioengineered in a lab again and spread on purpose to create, a populace of complete subservience, which, by the way, didn't work out too well because the numbers weren't as high as they expected it to, and people are starting to resist this in vast scales around the world because they've lost their job, and the global depression will kill far more people. But to say the least, the numbers are manipulated for COVID-19, and it is perfect for a massive power shift with China. And I'm going to go into that more in a moment. But first, I want to bring up another article on the screen. And by the way, can we get any more vindicated than we have been? I mean, seriously, we were threatened with a takedown of our channel. Our videos were being taken down nonstop, left and right, for talking about this months ago. As this article says, U.S. government report concludes Wuhan lab most likely source of COVID-19 outbreak. And we know that people who worked in that lab were covered in blood in some cases, were sprayed with blood during tests. And it just happens that they got all this money, this grant, these multiple grants from the U.S. government, which initially Trump just said, oh, it was just under Obama. Well, now we know in 2019 these studies were still happening as well. And there's evidence of current studies happening at this lab to this day with grants from the U.S. government that are completely under wraps. But, I mean, when you have a study on bats from the Yan'an caves, which they claim these poisoned bats or these coronavirus bats came from in the first place and ended up at these wet markets, when they're doing studies on them for coronavirus and trying to manipulate the coronavirus in a way that can be caught by man, at what point do you ask, this doesn't just seem like a conspiracy theory anymore. There's people that clearly appear to be conspiring, and if you understand Event 201, the event put on by Bill Gates, an exercise in October 2019 which followed the idea of a global pandemic tied to a coronavirus and causing massive shutdowns worldwide until everyone got an ID, a digital ID, and got vaccinated by force, then you'll know that there's a little bit more to this story. And I do want to, quickly before we go into the next most recent article regarding this issue, I want to mention something I've mentioned many times here at WHAM, which is from the Last American Vagabond website. It says, the leaders of two controversial pandemic simulations that took place just months before the coronavirus crisis, Event 201 and Crimson Contagion, share a common history. The 2001 biowarfare simulation Dark Winter. Dark Winter not only predicted the 2001 anthrax attacks, but some of its participants had clear foreknowledge of those attacks. And it's crazy how many comparisons and similarities we see there. And at what point, again, do you say something is strange here? We got vindicated on the lab, we got vindicated on the bioweapon, we got vindicated on the economic collapse, and now there's this as well, which is, to say the least, rich, as it says out of Zero Hedge. Pompeo, China using classic communist disinformation to hide and obfuscate virus origins. And he says the Chinese Communist Party now has responsibility to tell the world how this pandemic got out of China and all across the world, causing such global economic devastation, said Pompeo, adding America needs to hold them accountable. Well, Pompeo knows, having been part of the CIA for so long, that the pandemic, China would have been the perfect place to create a global power shift. Going back to the 1970s, Kissinger meeting with Mao Zedong, who killed 50 million people, mass communist starvation, absolute control of the populace. Kissinger met with Mao Zedong and created an alliance which created a monopoly on power for the U.S., or for China over the U.S., which led into the creation of the Trilateral Commission under Zbigniew Brzezinski, under Jimmy Carter. And obviously, Zbigniew Brzezinski, who's now deceased, said at the time that he wanted to create a massive technocratic superstate. And then what happens? Utilizing the Trilateral Commission, China becomes one of the biggest, the biggest technocratic superpower in the world, creating social credit. People can't fly on a plane without a good credit score, and that means they cannot have, said anything mean about the government or criticize the government. And people think it's a game to be subservient and obedient. And it becomes a massive cashless technocratic empire where everything's tracked and traced. It's absolute fascio-communism on some sci-fi crack, basically, at the end of the day. So it's rich and it's cute to see Pompeo saying they're doing a classic communist disinformation campaign. It's called a limited hangout for you, Pompeo, when you pretend that you are telling some of the truth, but you're not telling the entirety of the truth, which distracts people from the entirety of the truth. That is a classic CIA operation, is a limited hangout operation. And it's clear with the mystery surrounding Kim Jong-un, there's a massive power shift happening to China right now. And it's perfect because, and I've reported this a million times and I'll continue to report it, that China gets hit first, then allegedly spreads this to the rest of the world. China suddenly says they're okay, even though they're not. They're undercounting numbers while the U.S. is overcounting numbers. And then the U.S. completely collapses, and then China comes in and says, we'll help you. It's so perfect for a global power shift to happen. So again, I don't buy any of this. This is all a lie, and it is really hurting us on YouTube to even talk about this. But everything we're saying is coming true, and then the State Department, the Department of Defense, and the CIA even ends up admitting that we were right. And now these stories come out that Dr. Fauci is connected to the Wuhan lab that's been doing all these studies all along. How perfect is this, guys? How obvious is this? And when are people going to start asking some questions? Speaking of asking questions, something that was just absolutely ridiculous. It comes from a Twitter conversation I ended up unfortunately having with someone. I'll bring it up on the screen. As it says, Elon Musk said, "Free America now." This guy wrote, "My first disagreement with my idol. I said, cool story. You don't believe in freedom? Seems like a you problem more ways. Don't bring the rest of us down with that BS." This person wrote, "Freedom to what exactly? Go to the streets, infect yourself, be asymptomatic, and infect people in risking groups and kill them? Freedom to saturate the healthcare system? The first and most important freedom is a freedom to life." Yeah, that freedom doesn't come from government. This person named Sebastian says, "Thank you for saying this, Mario." Mario says back, "I'm Spanish and people here are suffering a lot. It's a shame that now influent people are proposing to not quarantine for the sake of the economy." So I just wrote back, and it's an obvious statement. Oh God, the economic consequences will kill far more people, fool. If you've ever studied how poverty affects people, you'd be calling for things to reopen as well. Also, you clearly don't understand immunology at all. This is prolonging the pandemic. Stop watching TV. This is ridiculous. This guy named Sebastian Stay at Home Paish, he's really drinking the Kool-Aid here, says, how is going to kill people? Tell me. And I just responded, how is a global economic crisis going to kill people? Are you actually serious right now? This is just, wow. Guy responds back, "I'm waiting. Tell me how people in the U.S. are going to die from a recession. Go ahead. It's your claim. Prove it. I want a scientific paper telling me how people will die." I mean, you are basing this on science and not your personal opinion, right? How do you even, what is even the point? How do you even communicate with these kinds of people? You can go ahead and go to my Twitter at WorldAltMedia, at WorldAltMedia, and join this conversation if you want. But my God, how do you explain to people poverty kills, suicide, crime? I mean, it goes without saying, drug abuse, alcoholism, all these things have roots in poverty. And you're going to virtue signal about keeping people safe? Poverty kills far more people. An economic global depression will kill far more people. It's not because it is an illness. This guy is acting like he's turning the tables around like it's an illness. And I'm saying that the economy is a scientific virus. I mean, this is so ridiculous. No, it is a different form of virus and not a physical one. It is one of complete central planning, government control over the population, and printing of currency, devaluing the price of living, absolute massive debts, all businesses shutting down, people unable to work that want to work, and that will lead to starvation. Lack of money leads to lower immunities and worse health, and staying inside all the time definitely doesn't help either. And to say that this doesn't kill, that a recession or a depression doesn't kill people, I mean, look at past recessions and tell me how a global one, like 100 times bigger, isn't going to end up with countless casualties. We're already seeing people killing themselves in Queens, New York at a rapid pace because they don't know what to do anymore. They're stuck. They have no idea what to do. Economic depressions lead to individual depression, and the casualties cannot be understood as of yet. But we have a housing bubble bursting. We have an auto bubble bursting. We have the inability for people to pay their mortgages. We see rents. They're getting frozen. The government's paying them. They're printing currency. That's going to be carried over to massive debts later on and loans. And it's just unbelievable that people can't comprehend how the economy affects individuals and how much worse it is. But people watch TV, they drink the Kool-Aid, and they just repeat after me, regurgitate whatever they see on TV. And it's sickening, it's sad, and it is a sign of our current slavery. So what are you doing about it, folks? Anyway, I really appreciate everyone watching today. Make sure to subscribe. Hit that like button if you haven't already. And check our links below. Join our new newsletter at www.iambanned.com. Check our CoinTree link as well in the description, which will lead you to a whole bunch of our social medias that we're on, including the alternative float.app. That's flote.app. And check out the outro coming up right now that'll tell you how you can help keep independent media alive. We really appreciate it, folks. It's never been more important to counter the propaganda indoctrination, as you could see from that previous Twitter conversation. Anyway, until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here, don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. We really can't do it without you. We've been so insanely shadow banned, about 90% at this point, and 95% demonetized. As Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, comes in and says that she is shutting down quote-unquote controversial content and cutting out the views on this controversial content by 70%. She's been bragging about it. We need your help more than ever in this battle for truth in information. You guys are what keeps us alive, so we really appreciate just even $1 a month makes a huge difference. If everyone could give just $1 a month, we wouldn't even have to worry about competing against a mainstream propaganda networks. You can also donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen for you to scan if you please, as well as in the comments and description. Liking and sharing makes a big difference as well, and finding us on alternative social media platforms like float.app, that's flote.app, makes a huge difference. We're at Josh Sigurdson as well as at Wham. Float is replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with encrypted private messaging, and of course monetization on videos for creators, live streams with super chats in crypto, and most of all, no algorithm, because at the end of the day, it's all about reach, guys. This is all about actually reaching people with the message and waking up the public. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Minds, BitChute, all sorts of different platforms. Try to follow us on as many things as possible, because very soon this channel will very likely just be completely deleted from YouTube, and you'll never see us again, and you'll be stuck with only the mainstream networks. Also, come on out and see us at Anarcho Vegas 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada in July, where such speakers such as G. Edward Griffin and many others will be speaking. You could use promo code WHAM on your VIP tickets and save 10%, as well as buy extremely cheap tickets for just $20.20. You won't find a cheaper conference than this with such amazing names. Check anarchovegas.com for more information on that. We hope to see you out there. And anyway, I really appreciate all of you guys joining us. You make it possible for us to survive in this volatile, propagandized climate. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.